Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Plos Bros podcast. I, of course, am one of your co-hosts, Matt, and joined with me is...
Hey, I'm Sam.
Beautiful. And we're here to talk about Mandalorian, new Star Wars merchandise coming at you, and even some Lord of the Rings news, because this is a pop culture podcast, not just Star Wars.
Got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Let's try to stay out of talking about all the other Star Wars shows for this show, because we're going to have a separate show, if you want to join us for that later on this week, where we discuss all the Star Wars TV series that are coming to Disney Plus very, very soon. And it's a lot.
It'll be a very long show, but it's going to be awesome.
Yes, so stick around for that later in the week and definitely subscribe. I know we haven't started the show yet, but you need to subscribe for more news from us. If you like pop culture topics and Lego and all the above.
Here's your central hub for it all.
That's us.
How's your week, Matt? How's everything going?
Well, thank you for asking. It was good. Busy, very busy. I went and got I'll show it to you right now. I mentioned it to you last night. I went and found on Letgo a huge bin of Lego for $20. That's full for $20. I am so excited to get sorting with this and to see what's inside. I already found that there is a Lego Old Republic speeder released, I think, in 2012, and then also one of those clone like battle station things that you see on Geonosis, but a very smaller version of that in battle pack form that came with 2 droidicas. I got a separate one of those that I already saw on the top in that bin, so I'm excited to see what else I can find.
And it's been very interesting to see what is in the bowels of that box.
It doesn't come with very many figures from what I understand, because I think he dug a few out, but like you said, just I'm sure there's a few hidden gems amidst all those bricks. And even so, I always want to build more mocks, and just to have unique pieces like that excites me.
Oh yeah, like I said last night, you're gonna have a pristine Queen Amidala in the Gungan sub.
Mint condition. It's actually in a little package. They never realized it. Or another Darth Revan.
Sure, it'd be on par for course for you.
I don't have that good of luck, but we'll see. We'll see. How was your week, Sam? That was the big thing for me this week. Big thing.
I've just been chilling. I mean, it's winter time, but it's 50 degrees out. So, welcome to New York.
Yeah, PA is the same. Let me tell you, it's the exact same weather that I'm seeing there outside my window.
Yeah, you can see there's no snow outside. So
very strange.
We had snow this week, but it is. It might change before Christmas. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it would be nice to have snow on Christmas. I always enjoy that.
Very true. But, well, you ready to talk about The Believer?
Yeah. And to get started, I wanted to pose this question to you to start it off. And this can be overall, we can go into anything, and then we'll start just taking it piece by piece with the episode, because that's the best way to break it down. Who do you think is the believer in that title?
Dang it, you stole my question. That was my first question.
No notes, baby. I don't even need it.
Before the show started, I just gave Matt a quick look at my notebook, like a flash, show him how many pages I have today, and he must.
That's how we roll around here.
Yeah,
we're honest.
It's very interesting because I think The Believer covers a lot of different characters in this, but I feel like this is a Mayfield thing. Does Mayfield believe in the cause still? The whole time I was thinking, is he going to double cross them again? Because Mando double crossed him, but to have him not do that, I think was a lot more interesting. So yeah, what do you think of The Believer is?
I think it's certainly an expansion on that character of Mayfield. Like you just said in the beginning of the episode, the shots were lingering once again on him, and the way his lines were written felt like that could be the scenario, but I'm also glad that it wasn't. I want to see some character growth. I think the believer, like you kind of just iterated, can work for pretty much every character in this episode. But I truly would get behind the fact that, to me, I think the best representation of it is Mando, because he believes so wholeheartedly he would do anything to get the child back, to get Grogu, his son, back. And he believes that is a worthy cause, that he's even willing to take his helmet off and disregard all of the prior beliefs that he's held in his life. Very, very powerful. And we'll get into it. But I loved the scene between him and Mayfield talking. Well, basically Mayfield just talking, and Mando sitting there in the transport as they're going with the Rhydonium down the road. when he says, "You and I, Mando, we're a lot alike." You know that? I think that kind of goes into that meaning of what the believer is, because they both, in their own minds, have different views on these causes that they think are worthy or not.
Yeah, and well, and to contrast that believing, you have that Imperial officer who is so completely in for Operation Cinder and in for all that stuff. So it, like, really contrasts really well his pure believing, and even contrasting Mando now versus Chapter One, and how much he's changed. It's amazing to think about.
Yeah, I remember saying that last week too. It's incredible how far we've gone from him being this lone wolf, never caring about anybody but pretty much himself or the ways of Mandalore, to now being willing to put that all behind him and make all these sacrifices just for a kid that he's grown to love, that he truly cares
Mhm.
about. That's
Which makes me
parenthood,
more,
that's family.
yeah, it makes me more and more think that his original covert's going to come back as antagonists later on in the series, which would be cool.
I would love to see a showdown between him and the armorer, because that symbolizes him going against those beliefs and what he grew up with as a kid. And I think he struggled with a lot. I don't think it was easy for him to adopt the Mandalorian ways at all. I think it was a hard life. And I think that he wants to kind of put that behind him. I think we're slowly moving in that direction as this series develops. And it's not only him overcoming her, but like I said, his prior religion, which he even says in chapter 2, weapons are his religion.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a really interesting title that isn't necessarily explained, which I like those kind of titles.
Makes you
Yeah, you can
think.
kind of interpret it. How, yeah, oh, totally. Yeah. But this episode was directed by Rick Famuyiwa, which we were kind of talking about before we started recording. He's directed some interesting episodes. He directed the second episode of the series with the Mudhorn, and he
Mm-hmm.
directed the Prisoner episode where he introduced Mayfield, and now he directed this one. So a wide spread, but also like very interesting style of directing, I think, across those three episodes.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I really liked that he was able to start off directing Bill Burr's character Mayfield in that chapter 6 and follow up
Mhm.
with it here, because it really is a linear story that has these connection points. And for the director that started the ideas in that episode, it's really cool to see them back for this and to have those contrasting characters. Mayfield is a completely different character than he was in that episode, which is nice
Oh
to
yeah.
see. Great development.
I'm interested to watch The Prisoner again now. Watching the two back to back, I think would be really neat to compare the two. But
Definitely. Definitely.
how'd you feel about the AT-AT crane returning in a different sense?
First shot, I thought of you. I like that scrapyard planet. That was cool. Some downed
Yeah,
ATSTs, TIE fighters.
it doesn't say what planet it is, though, does it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because it could be Baraka from Jedi Fallen Order.
Very well could be. There are, I feel like, so many junk planets in Legends and canon. At least it's not Lothal Minor, where Maul comes back as Spider Maul, where Savage finds him.
And Rexus Prime stands out to me for some reason.
That's
Isn't
in The
that the
Force
junk planet?
Unleashed.
That's what I was gonna say. I thought that was the Force Unleashed. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
But both of those, Lothal Minor and Raxus Prime, are very fiery. It's almost like pits of hell idea.
yeah.
But this is pretty normal. We got to see an old Republic droid back again. Same kind, pretty much, that was in the last Prisoner episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say the alien that's in that scene when he's walking out. We talked about it last week. That people thought that was Lasat on the screen, a live action Lasat. It's a one of those wolf characters that's in the Force Awakens in Maz's castle.
Mm-hmm.
There's like two or three little wolf characters that run out when they're walking into Maz's castle. So it's actually of that species. It's not a Lasat.
It's
Some
the
people
one
on the
the
internet
camera
thought.
kind of pans in on and follows as they're walking through Maz's castle in The Force Awakens. And if you look in the shot where Cara Dune is scrolling through all of the prisoners in the last episode, you see all of those characters that are working in that field, or some of them at least.
Mhm.
And that character is one of them. Because when I was looking through for photos last week of Bill Burr, when she stops on him for Mando to figure out where he's at, I saw all those creatures. I'm like, I wonder if they're going to introduce those in the next episode. But what surprised me was how quickly they broke him out and
Oh
how
yeah,
easily it happened. I was not prepared for that. I thought that was going to be the whole episode.
yeah, same. And And then he was just loaned out. Like, it's interesting how that works. But hey, the New Republic's kind of disorganized. They mentioned it time and time again. So,
And it's hard for a new power like that to, I guess, assert its dominance throughout the galaxy, which makes sense when there's so much disarray.
and then you walk through all the junk stuff and you see the Slave One there, and then Boba Fett just walks out with that new paint job, and you're like, wow.
It just hits you hard. It like slaps you in the face.
Oh yeah, it's so many bright colors, and like, I don't know if I like what I like better. I don't know. It looks like a Kenner action figure.
I certainly liked the last scrounged up armor from the Sarlacc pit better, personally. I like a weathered look. This new paint job, it looked like a fixed up car. Like something just looked off to me. It wasn't shiny and new. It was like, okay, we're just gonna paint it up. Because even in Empire Strikes Back, it is not that fresh of a coat of paint. It just looks too fresh for me. The paint wasn't even dry when he walks off that ship.
It would have been great if someone just did like the Echo thing and like accidentally put their hand on his armor and then like had that, and like, oh, I don't know how to do this, just like handprint somewhere and like.
Fennec, why are you touching my chest right now?
Oh, I guess Tamora Morrison was in one scene. I was gonna say he could have just voiced in or called in all those scenes, but I guess he didn't have his helmet off for one scene.
Yeah, when they're talking about like the whole plan of what they're going to do, and they're explaining things to Mayfeld, they have the hologram pulled up and his helmet is off, which kind of makes viewers remember who that is and why it matters.
I mean, I think they're going to have to do that almost every episode for a while, but also to show that he's different than Din and all that stuff. So,
yeah. When you have two characters with Mandalorian armor, that's kind of important to be able to distinctively set them apart.
I like that he's a little bit bigger too, like kind of just bulkier, different ways to set them apart, and the color and all that stuff. That's probably why they haven't painted Mando's armor, just to make him look different than everyone else.
Exactly. And I can appreciate that. We make these episodes so freshly after seeing the new episodes that come out. Did you see everybody calling Boba Fett last week? That was the weekly controversy. Boba Fett. Poor Tamara Morrison. He looks great. I'm glad that he's back. And if he's gained a little weight, that's fine by me.
Yeah, he's older.
Yeah. Well, actually, I saw something. He's not really that old if you think about it. He's not as old as we thought. Because in episode 2, he's what? Like 14? Less than that? How long is the Clone Wars? If you measure it out, he's only about 50 something, 40 something.
Yeah, I'd say he's in his 50s. That's what I guess. He was probably in his 50s.
I think Tamora Morrison's a little older though.
Yeah, well, he's done a lot of stuff. You know, he's been Superman's dad and all that stuff. Or Aquaman's dad. That's
Yes.
who he was.
Well, I mean, if you think about it too, like Boba Fett has been through a lot. Give him a break. Let him have some spotchka beers and gain a little belly. When you've been in the Sarlacc pit for so long, you need some drinks, right?
Oh, I wanted to say one of the coolest shots I saw at the beginning there when they get onto Slave One and then Slave One's taking off and you see the inside of the rotation of the whole cabin moving around. That was so cool. Like I've never
gotten that before.
I never knew I wanted to see that before. And then I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And then it finally settles on the window and you're like, oh, well, it's so cool.
I agree.
So cool. Like
I agree. And my only question is, were there some modifications made? Because in the Clone Wars series, when we see Slave One, the inside of Slave One, we never saw that cabin area. Remember, it just felt like there was that little doorway that they kept the prisoners in the Clone Wars. Remember in the Boba Fett arc? And then the cockpit itself, I didn't realize there was a lower level to all of that. We never seen that before.
Yeah, I have to go back and watch that. I haven't seen those episodes themselves in a while. I just remember, like the area where they keep the prisoners, but I don't really exactly remember that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if some modifications were made after it crashed in Hondo Anaka's forum fields. But
yeah, I forgot about that as well. Speaking of Clone Wars, did you catch the nice little Clone Wars reference in this episode with the Rhydonium?
Yes. I didn't realize that was Clone Wars, though. For some reason, I linked it with Solo, and I thought of the coaxium and how they're transporting that, and that's where I linked it. But no, I did not catch the Rhydonium. Tell everybody where that's from.
That is from the Clone Wars droid arc in the 5th season with Colonel Meeber Gaston. All I could hear every time I hear the word Rhydonium, I just think of Rhydonium.
That arc.
Thank you, Steve Stanton, for your service. Like that is
Rhydonium.
the way his mouth moves and his little like his it's so strange, but it's amazing. And it's probably the best part of that. I enjoy that arc more than I should.
I feel like you are the type of fan that would enjoy that arc because you like weird stuff that few other people really can get behind. So I could see you
Except for
enjoying that.
a sunny day in the void is one episode I cannot finish. I fall asleep every time.
That makes me happy that you at least say that.
The first episode's good. They're infiltrating the capital ship, and then they have the episode with Gregor, and then they have the one where the ship explodes. Like,
But Sam, that's
all
George
that.
Lucas's favorite episode of the series because it references THX 1138. Like, how could you not appreciate that episode, Sam?
And it references Jax the rabbit.
No. No.
But when it exploded, it would have been nice to see like multicolored explosions, like in Clone Wars.
Well, that Clone Wars explosion is the whole ship. There's fuel in that ship. There's more than just the Rhydonium.
Well,
I think that's
but
the
the
point.
Rhydonium explodes when they're on the planet too. When Gregor attacks the base
That's a fair
on
point.
Avafar.
That's a fair point. I also felt like those explosions were larger. I could be wrong.
I want to see it take down the whole base and have like the lake flood back in like it was supposed to. I thought they were going to do that. It probably cost too much. Animate all that water and all that like base destruction stuff, but
Well, I'm sure. And you have to remember that everything you see is pretty much animated through CGI and this game engine technology that they've developed. It's insane. And it's cheaper than, filming on location, I imagine, and building all the creatures and costumes more than they already have. Or like a life-size Razor Crest. Like that would have cost a lot. They saved a lot of money there. I can imagine that explosions aren't as expensive, but special explosions can get expensive. And when you already have
I
a
didn't.
seismic charge in your episode, your budget just kind of flies out the window.
Before we talk about the seismic charge, did you realize last week's episode was filmed on location? And all
Yes,
those boulders and stuff. It was filmed outside of LA. I didn't realize. I think it was LA. Well, I didn't realize that. So
I think
that's
it
pretty
was
cool.
around, that West Coast desert rocky region that you would see in California or those sorts of areas. I did realize that because I saw a few TikToks of like a girl being like, "Hey, I live like 5 minutes away from this location. Why wasn't I an extra in the show?" I'd be kind of upset too. I can understand that.
Well, I mean, they film in LA there at the train yard where they filmed most of the outdoor stuff. Like when we were following it last year with all those leaks and stuff, we saw the lava river long before we knew what it was.
I think it depends on the
Yeah.
lighting and just what they can do in the back lot. Because I remember in the gallery episodes, Rick Famuyiwa is directing the Mudhorn sequence or something in that episode from chapter 2 outside in the back lot area.
And I know they built the entire Navarro marketplace for last season. Like
They
at
go
least
back there
like the
multiple
road where
times.
yeah. So it's like it's a mainstay for the season, but like when they're going places like wherever Queel lives, like all that stuff, like that was all in that volume. So they're close by, so I understand why they filmed there on location. It's probably cheaper than rendering all those boulders and stuff. So maybe that's why it was looked recognizable to Agents of Shield because they probably filmed there at some point as well.
I
You
bet.
know,
I bet. Just the feel of it, at least, and the way things are shot outdoors, especially, it feels very different than when you're inside. I'm sure the volume.
yeah,
I'm sure they
yeah.
balance out pricing and like figure out how much something's going to cost. There's plenty of people behind the scenes doing that. That's the most important thing when you're creating content. Let me tell you, I understand
There's like
perfectly.
so there's like a Roz character. There's a Roz lady out there running budgeting and like Rick, that you cannot use the volume this episode. You must go on location.
That is way too scarily accurate. That is no. Are you sure you weren't hired by Pixar to voice her? Are you sure?
There's a long story of that, but that's for a different time, a different place. The waterfall base itself. Did you think it kind of had vibes like Darth Vader's castle? As far as like the waterfall coming out, in my mind, I looked at it and like I was like the waterfall coming out the center of it was like the waterfall coming out of the middle of Darth Vader's
I think
castle.
I think you're too deep.
I'm too steeped in canon. Okay, that makes sense. I'm glad
you
you shoot
are
me down.
knee deep in reaching for.
But Darth Vader's castle is fire with water inside, but this base is water with fire inside because the fire is the fuel. And
You're in the mud reaching way too far. You're way too deep in there to be pulled out, Sam.
on the way to the castle, the way to the base, the attack by the pirates, did it not feel like a video game? Like where every time you're like, "Oh, congratulations, you defeated one speeder. Now there's two. Okay, you defeated two. Now there's three."
I feel that Mando itself as a series feels a lot like a video game with the way each episode is framed as a mission with side quests. It all feels like that to me. And honestly, I can appreciate that. I felt the same way in chapter 3 when Mando was going in and infiltrating the stormtrooper base area and grabbing Grogu. You're sneaking around, you disarm the guards and try not to be seen, but eventually you are, and you have to fight them all. And there's always like one more stormtrooper, just like in this case, where there's always one more thing of pirates.
I thought it was interesting they showed his ability with the staff though in this episode. So I was like, oh well, here's a nice lead up in case they do the whole Beskar spear thing versus the Darksaber next week. They kind of prefaced that, but he's not the best. But it was still he was able to kick some ass, which was nice.
I was waiting for them to pull his helmet off the entire time. I was just waiting, sitting there. He kept holding it down, it kept looking like, especially when they're like strangling him there for a second. Just as every Mando action sequence, sitting at the edge of my seat, watching and enjoying every second of it. Well done, once again.
Were those aliens Iktachis that like the same species as Sassy Tin?
I have to go back and watch. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I wasn't.
I didn't notice the horns.
Yeah, well, they have horns, but I don't know if they're like grew into their heads.
It's so difficult for me. Like I said, only saw it once. It's
Yeah, me too.
always really difficult to pick out all those things, especially you're so invested in the story on the first watch. And then
Yeah.
the second, third, fourth, et cetera, times that you see the episode, you can go back and every single detail becomes so much more apparent. So
Oh,
one of the
for sure.
things that
Yeah.
we'll have to go back and check out.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the Juggernaut vehicle and the tank driver armor repaint from Rogue One?
I felt like this whole episode had Rogue One and Solo written all over it. I enjoyed seeing the shore trooper armor again. I enjoyed seeing that same tank trooper armor again. I love that they are continuing that same line of things because it's already been referenced before and they can attach it to this and it like works for the episode. I can appreciate that they're not
It's
just
like poetry, it rhymes.
well, I don't want them to make up new things for no reason.
Yeah.
Or just to have it all stormtroopers because then it doesn't feel as connected. This show just feels like it's connecting all of Star Wars canon together into one series, and I love it. It just makes me happy.
Yeah. In the Lego helmets, they use the same mold for the shore troopers and the tank drivers, but the helmets they vary a little bit different. I think that the tank drivers are a little bit wider and the shore troopers are small, but like you understand Lego needing to use molds for different stuff. The tank drivers are darker. I think that's cool. It looks more like the mud troopers, like from Solo. Like you said, I didn't realize until just now, like that's what I was thinking it was from. Like a more grittier, you don't want white armor on a trooper like that that's driving a muddy tank or juggernaut or whatever you want to call it.
These guys have been in the field for a while. The thing I love about Star Wars, it's futuristic, but yet it's realistic and worn down. These weathered vehicles and armor, all these weapons that feel just kind of thrown together. They're not too overly futuristic and shiny.
Were you getting frustrated with Mayfield not putting his helmet back on? Because I sure was.
My mom kept yelling about that when we watched it together. He was annoying me at first, but as it just unfolded, I think that's more of a character trait. He does what feels comfortable in the moment, and he lets his emotion dictate his actions, much like when he shoots the Imperial officer, or when he won't go in to plug in for the data that Mando's trying to get. It's just a character trait that he is unwilling to comply anymore with orders, and he's his own person. Whereas
yeah,
Mando is certainly not that same person, or at least that's what we think for a while until the episode kind of develops. He starts out much like Mayfield, following orders in his own like brain for what he needs to do as a Mandalorian. There is a cause far more important than that he should go against. He decides.
I was fine with it until he got back to the base, and I was kind of like, well, I understand where you're coming from, and nice deep dive there with motives and stuff like that.
Yeah. You got the
That's what we do.
references, I got the story. Bada bing.
But
What I was annoyed about with the helmet situation was when he got to the base, he didn't put the helmet back on, but he could have easily to get into the room. The Imperial guy might not have noticed. Take the helmet off, scan your face, do it quickly, and get out without being recognized. That kind of annoyed me because it's like, okay,
the
you're just going
officer
to be a
didn't
wimp.
recognize him anyways. Like,
I know that didn't even matter. That's what kind of frustrated me from a plot perspective.
well, I think it was more to be like Mayfield didn't want to be in the same room as him, is what I originally took it as. And like when Mayfield comes in and saves Din later on, that is why like he overcame his mental barrier in a way, is what I kind of took it as. But
And that's a good way
that's
of looking
stretching
at
it,
it.
I guess.
But at the same time, I thought he said he knew him. He would recognize him.
I have to rewatch it. I really don't remember.
Maybe he didn't. Maybe that was just the vibe we got. I don't know. But it just felt like that was all pieced together in a very odd way. Not
Yeah.
complaining,
Yeah.
just a critique.
Yeah. And how'd you feel about Din taking his helmet off? I felt like it was a long time coming in this episode. And like this whole season has been setting up Din taking his helmet off in one way or another. And it was nice. It was
Yeah,
nice.
I enjoyed seeing Pedro Pascal acting. Like for once, not just okay, it's Mando. We don't get to see like his facial expressions, which is nice in its own way for a Star Wars story, and they do it very well. But finally, we got to see him really acting or staying quiet, I guess. I like the way they played it all off. I thought that was very well done and almost comedic, but in a way, yet it wasn't because of how powerful the moment was and what that means when we realize he finally takes his helmet off to basically sacrifice everything for the kid. I think that it's something that he's going to have to mentally live with now, though. And I think it's going to have some repercussions in the future. I don't think he will be as unwilling to take it off now since he's already done it once. And I'm sure that he will have to again. And I think that at the very end of the series, he's just going to take it off and leave it off forever, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice that he's gotten the affirmation that he can still be a Mandalorian and not be part of this cult. And, you know, he has Boba around him all the time, taking his helmet off. He
Bo-Katan.
has, yeah, that's what I would say. And like the real Mandalorians. And, you know, when he meets Sabine, it's going to be the same. Oh, we're not getting into that. Oh, sorry.
No, not today. No, I don't.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to talk about that today.
Yeah, that's for a different show. Anyway,
That's for the Ahsoka show.
But yeah, we kind of covered it with Mayfield and the officer. I mean, like that was a pretty moving scene. I thought like a very like I think probably the most dramatic moment of the whole episode. Was
Well done,
just
Bill
him.
Burr. Well done.
Yeah, and
from an acting perspective, I thought he did great because you could feel it boiling up in him. If you've ever been super angry at someone and you don't know how to unleash that, you let it simmer and it just makes you very upset and emotional. But like I said before, driven by emotion, right?
and hopefully you haven't murdered anybody because of it. But if you have, I'm glad that you're watching the show and
From
away
jail, likely.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was a great scene. I thought the Imperial officer definitely had a huge snarkiness that you definitely knew that you hated him from the first scene, and like then like the whole diversion of let's get a drink. It wasn't convenient. The officer just made you hate him from the get-go. Well, they're doing a really good job of that this season with the guy from the Bo-Katan episode to this guy. They have officers that you just hate from the get-go. Except for that officer that flew out the hatch in the Bo-Katan episode. The one who locked them in the cargo control area. He was a doofus.
He's probably alive somewhere. He fell in the water.
He's just jet skiing with some Mon Calo right now.
I honestly, what I enjoyed about this episode, I don't know if you saw this or not. I enjoyed how you were excited to see a TIE fighter fly by and save them from the pirates. I enjoyed how it was an uplifting moment to see stormtroopers for once save them. That was weird in a good way, though, because it blurs the lines between knowing what is right and not.
Because in any other circumstance, they probably would have been with the pirates, who probably were natives to the planet anyways. You
I think
know,
they were just
just
fighting for their home back. That's what vibe
yeah.
I got.
I thought those kids would come back at some point. When the other juggernauts started exploding, I was like, were the kids putting, like Vietnam, like putting bombs underneath tanks and stuff like that? I
Yeah.
thought that's where we were going, was like the child soldier side of it, which I'm kind of glad they didn't go to at this
That's a
point. Like,
little dark, too real
yeah,
world terrorists, gray area,
yeah,
very very gray. That's
yeah.
something like Rogue One would probably do, but I don't think they're gonna touch that in a Disney Plus original series.
Unless it's on Disney Star, which we'll get to in our next show. Stick around if you want to hear about rated R stuff coming to Disney Plus.
Or knowing how much they're gonna upcharge you for Disney Plus now.
How about
Anywho,
that seismic charge?
in the moment, I enjoyed it. I'm kind of feeling a little fan service. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just
It makes sense. They introduced the TIE fighters. They introduced 2 TIE fighters. They only have 2 TIE fighters. They set it all up. They need to destroy the ship. So would you have rather had a 10-minute dogfight with a slave one? We don't need that. The episode's already like
I thought
just,
they were gonna show Boba's skills as a pilot, and then that would matter later because he seems like the taxi service. He seems like the driver in this scenario and in the future. I don't think he's going to be battling too much more. I hopefully am wrong, but I think we've seen the extent of him kicking butt. I think he's more
in
of a
the armor
pilot
or in the
now
ship.
in the
Oh, okay.
armor. I think we're going to see him
Yeah.
more flying in the ship. If they do a Boba Fett series, I think we'll see him fighting more physically in that. But I think in this series, for all it's worth, he's going to be mainly in the pilot seat. But I would have liked for them to establish his abilities as a pilot, not just hit a button and then all the problems disappear. But it was a great reference. I love the noise. It's so
I was scream
satisfying.
I was yelling too loud to hear it really well. Oh my gosh. Katie and I were watching it. She yelled during the officer scene when Mayfeld stood up and shot the officer. But I was yelling when I was like, he's going to drop a seismic charge. And they started flying up. And then freaking, he leans over, pushes the button. Because, as a nerd, you definitely have that whole cockpit of the Slave One memorized with what button launches seismic charges. Then the little door opened. I was like, here we go. And I was cheering. It launched out and blew up. And so I was cheering too loud for me to really hear the noise. So I'll have to rewatch it.
I enjoyed it. I like the reference. I love the noise. I could have used a little bit more bass, just a little bit. But honestly, it did feel a little forced. We never discussed this, but I'm assuming we're going to figure out in the Boba Fett series, where did he get Slave One back from?
Jabba's palace.
Nobody stole it. You're telling me nobody stole Slave One in all that time?
Yeah, maybe he had it. He was flying around. I don't know if they're going to go with the amnesia thing. Then maybe someone had it. But
Theory. What if my original thought was that a crate dragon ate the Sarlacc, and while it was fighting, Boba escaped? But what if Boba has the ability to manually call Slave One in, and it like zoomed by and shot the Sarlacc, like he remotely controlled the ship, and then he somehow was able to like get in it without his arm? I don't know.
it's like the Sarlacc spits him out and he's flying in the air, and then like Slave One comes swooping in,
Yeah.
but backwards and like upside down, and like scoops him up and flies up upside down because the way the hatch works.
Yeah,
Science.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point since it does that rotating. Yeah. Anything else with this episode that we haven't talked about yet?
2 things: Mayfield let in the jungle, and Mando's message.
He's definitely going to be back. Mayfield will be back. They're setting this up to be a reoccurring character already. Like, I'm trying to think what life he has to go to now. Probably
He's
more
going to join the Jumanji movies because he's in the jungle.
I feel like these characters go back to what they know. So I feel like he will still be some sort of a bounty hunter character, but maybe he'll go rescue his buddies and put together a crew again, going back to his old ways. But he does seem like a kind of a changed man. He overcame his demons. That was a very cool scene where he completely blows up the base. I enjoyed that. It felt right for the character at the moment. Where do you think
Yeah,
we're going to see him next?
this show, who knows? I completely agree that he's going to come back. He just is set up enough, and he's such a fan favorite as an actor. A lot of people want to see him come back anyway. So that's that. And then I love these little epilogues we're getting at the end of the episodes. Like we've had this a few times now. Just checking in with Moff Gideon, and very interesting. Very interesting. I love that. Like this is the literal. He's giving him back his same speech from last season, and it was so good. Because I skipped the recap, and that's in the recap. So
yes, it is. It's the first thing that's said in the recap because that was the only part of the recap that I saw.
yeah.
And then I'm like, oh well. I didn't necessarily think that it would connect to something like that.
Oh yeah.
But so well written, so well done, just blew me away. It feels like a true revenge plot almost. But do you think it's unwise of him to reveal that he's coming for him and to not surprise?
That's kind of what I thought as well. But to pass up the opportunity to have that kind of awesome thing, I think it's kind of worth it.
I agree. But I'm just trying to think of what the plan is because they didn't go over that. That kind of was a cliffhanger for it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Moff Gideon is heading to some kind of base and that it's going to be more of a. I don't want to have it be an episode where they sneak onto an Imperial ship, and it just feels too much like stuff we've seen too much in Rebels and Clone Wars. You know, I don't know.
That's fair. I don't need Mando in Stormtrooper armor again forever. Maybe they'll go get Captain Rex, and Captain Rex will get into Stormtrooper armor in the next episode, and he'll do all their work for them.
Because he has all the codes to get on the ships. That's about it for me on next week's episode. I'm excited. I don't even have any predictions. I mean,
I'm going to be surprised. I'm excited right now. I cannot wait. It's weird that it's already a finale, but we've been going every week for 8 weeks now, or 7 weeks now. Going to be 8. I think it's going to be the perfect conclusion for this season. I don't know what they're going to end it on because I'm sure they're going to leave it on one of those epilogue type of things, just as they did with Moff Gideon holding the Darksaber.
If anything, I don't think Mando's going to get Grogu back next week.
No,
I don't
either.
I think he's going to be a serious failure because last season they beat Moff Gideon, and
he's not your cartoon.
A whole bunch of hubris. Yeah,
he's not your cartoon villain of the week.
That's the only real thing I think is going to happen is that Moff Gideon's going to win next week.
And maybe it is their arrogance of calling him that does that. What did you think of this being the first episode that we don't have Grogu in?
I didn't realize it until 4 hours later. I was like driving to the gym and I was like, oh my gosh, we didn't see Grogu at all this week. And you said it's very purposely done. I mean, but what do you think the thinking behind that is?
It could play into the story, but I think it was more of a thematic element where just as Mando is away from the child, this is the first episode where he's fully separated from him. I think we are also separated from Grogu and missing him as an audience. I think that's the element of it. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sums it up for me too. Well, anything else on this episode, bud?
No, I'm just so excited. We're gonna have a big show next week too, as always. We always have a big show.
Yeah, well, so big that this week we're having 2 shows. So
I was not expecting all of that information to drop yesterday. So
no. So earlier in the week we did have some merch drop though, which is interesting. I mean, it's nothing crazy. We've had some much better merch weeks. This week we got some glow in the dark pops revealed of Moff Gideon and Mando with a pistol, regular size pop. Yeah.
I think the Moff Gideon stands out to me as something that we haven't really seen before. Have they ever had a glowing lightsaber pop or anything akin to that?
Not that I know of.
I wish my hologram Snoke glowed in the dark. I thought that it would at first, but it doesn't.
Doesn't it say in the box that it does, though?
Maybe that's why it was $10.
That makes it even more expensive. If it says in the box it glows in the dark and it doesn't.
Who knows? Of the new pops coming out, I'm sure that's a bit more expensive. From the Mandalorian, I think I would go for that one.
Out of the new ones, I mean, I already have the Mithril and the Gamorrean Fighter. I think the only other one I really want to get is the Mando on the Bantha. That's one that stands out for me. And I almost bought last week, but it was regular price and everything else was on sale. So I just kind of let it go, and I'll get it when it's on sale.
Did you give up on Moff Gideon?
I think that one's a lock. We'll see what Christmas holds. But I already consider that like out last year's pops, but yeah.
I think it's gone forever. We've been looking for that one for so long.
Every time you look on Amazon, it says, "Oh, it'll be out in December." December is halfway through right now, so I
Day
haven't
for
seen it. I haven't
Christmas.
been anywhere in the wild, but
When I went on Black Friday to the mall, I saw the Gamorrean out of all the new ones, like all of the new ones, Maul, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan, all those, and from the Mandalorian. The Gamorrean was the only one I saw.
at the secondhand store, was that at a main dealer?
I was at the secondhand store, which
Yeah,
has more than a dealer.
for double the price, which is never mind. We're not gonna get on that one.
We have our own views about that. I don't think it's
Yeah.
necessarily wrong, but if they're gonna get it, if they put all the work into going and doing that, but if they poach all of them, see, the only thing is they have one of everything. They don't have 10 of the same thing.
Well, but that's what they have out front. That's the thing. I heard some guy really verbally talking about it, like near employees, the last time I was in there. And I kind of think about that, but I'm not gonna like tell the employees that I think that they're stealing all the stuff from the real stores. And
I don't think they're stealing, but they're definitely trying to get their money back for what they paid for it. I think what you see is what you get, though. I don't think they have anything else in the back there. That's
yeah, I
just
don't
my.
know. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not about to sit here and be all judgmental.
Oh,
But
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's what we live in a free country. You can do what you want. And then I just love the standees. I just have loved them every week. I love going on and seeing new standees on the website. Yeah.
it's good for artwork. It's good
Oh,
for if you're
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to replicate, do a drawing of an Ahsoka and you need a good pose. There you go. You go to the standee.
I think those are all going to be the pictures we see in the visual dictionary, though, in a month or so.
They're already the same ones that we're seeing on the Star Wars Instagram with those
Yeah,
Photoshop edits every week.
yeah, which those are really cool.
I do dig
But
those. Those could be good
yeah,
posters for them to sell if they're
I think they
wanting to make
probably
more money.
will.
What new standees did you like this week?
Oh yes, the boba and the armor, boba without the armor with the gaffy stick and the rifle, and then Fennec Shand without the helmet. I think
I want to see
not
her
bad.
more with the helmet on. I hate to be that guy, but
Yeah, I like the helmet, but I think I'm hoping in Bad Batch she wears the helmet a lot.
I think she wears
So,
it the whole time in Bad Batch probably. But I'm just
but
saying, like, if she's doing some sniper stuff, I'd rather see her looking cool with the helmet on rather than like just kind of eyeballing it.
yeah, yeah, and just to top things off with as far as the figures and stuff goes, there's a rumor that they were going to get a Black Series Luke and Leia in the training outfits from Episode 9. So as a
I'm
2-pack
surprised we
or
haven't
something.
gotten them yet.
Yeah, we had the Funko Pop ones that were a convention exclusive and were really tough to find. It was a 2-pack. I was looking at them the other day trying to see if you can actually buy them anywhere. It's not even worth it to try to buy them. So
Yeah, well, it's just one of those. It's just like Moff Gideon. They don't show up. We forgot something 2 episodes ago that I forgot to mention to you because we didn't talk about merch too much last week. They made another Ralph McQuarrie pop that we did not even know about. They made a Luke because we were talking about it in the episode. Like they should have made a Luke. They did. I don't know if it's an exclusive or not to somewhere specific. It might be.
I have seen the Chewbacca one. I don't know if I've seen that or not. I don't know. But I know I've seen the Chewbacca one.
Yeah, I think they're cool. I'm glad that they have more of those planned.
Like you can get them as the average person, not just you have to go to convention to get them.
Yeah, I
So
think so. It didn't say anything exclusive. Wait. No.
no.
Okay, so the Luke is the convention exclusive. It's 2020 Galactic Convention exclusive. I don't know what that is. Do you know what the Galactic Convention is? Yeah, they have it on Mars every year.
Yeah, that's why I thought both of those had been convention exclusive or Smuggler's Bounty or whatever you want. But I think that it's good. I saw them on the Funko website though, the Ralph McQuarrie ones, because I got a pop from Funko this week, directly from Funko as a Christmas present for somebody.
Fresh,
Oh
straight
yeah,
from the
yeah,
factory.
yeah. No interruptions, no middleman.
Are you gonna handle it with
So
rubber gloves? Are you
like I'm handling the Declaration of Independence.
exactly?
But
You can be
yeah,
the
and
Nicolas
finally,
Cage of Funko.
yeah, well, yeah, except for I'm not stealing them from anyway. We had this awesome Yoda poster, which we just found right before we came on the air. Holy cow, is that an awesome poster? It's a celebration exclusive print artwork that was made, and it's Yoda on Dagobah with this like stained glass style art behind him. And wow, I mean, between the father, the dark side on one side, and the light side on the other side, it covers everything in the through the spectrum, which is really neat. Like people who are closer to like the left hand side of the poster are closer to the light side, and the people on the right hand side are close to the dark. Like the whole spectrum of characters, you know, Very, very interesting
A lot
poster
of
overall.
symbolic elements involved with this artwork, and every series and Star Wars film, even a callback to Fallen Order with Cal Kestis in it.
Yeah,
There's just so
and
many
Resistance is on
references.
there too.
Yes, there's just so many
Yeah,
references that can be appreciated. The Bendu at the top, I loved.
yeah,
I don't know if you caught that or not. The worm
yeah,
and all the creatures on Dagobah. You can even see the spider in the background. You know the worm slug in the Jar Jar episode of Clone
yeah,
Wars with Anaconda Far. I was glad to see
yeah. The
that
rodeo, yeah,
because that
Bombay
was an
Jedi, yeah.
original Ralph McQuarrie concept for Dagobah. I don't know if you knew that. But yeah, it's just a really nice artwork, and I think I would look great as a poster hanging on the wall.
I'm gonna do some searches here to see if what you can do to get that as a poster because it'd be nice to have that framed somewhere
Yeah, and you
nice.
mentioned that it was an exclusive from Celebration.
It was supposed to be for Celebration this year. Probably missed the boat on that one because they did a little celebrations sales months ago, but
Yeah.
you never know what you can get. We have one more little thing to talk about, and that's Lord of the Rings series coming to Amazon. It's been rumored for like 3 years now. Amazon bought it from, and like they're like in a bidding war with Netflix to get the rights to the Lord of the Rings, and now they've got it. $1 billion is what they paid, I think,
Are they
for
gonna
it.
do it though? Like, when is
Yeah,
it?
they're
There's no date at all.
summer 2022. I was just reading the article this morning. They spent $1 billion on it with a 5 season guarantee.
How can
They're
you do
going back.
that? How can you guarantee? I read the same article that you sent me.
Yeah,
How can you guarantee something for 5 seasons when it's not even had a single episode out and there's no proof that people will enjoy it?
I think it's popularity of the medium. If this doesn't work out, they'll just hire a new director. But I think they're so confident in it because they're going to have the same people who did all the work on the original, not just Lord of the Rings, but on The Hobbit as well. So that's 6 movies worth of people, and bringing that creative team back together and hiring all these new people. I mean, it's understandable why it cost $1 billion.
It's an incredible amount of money. I'm
Think of all
struggling
the pops you
to
can get with that.
yeah, a whole wall, a whole
Give
house.
Vic $1 billion.
You could literally build like a house just out of like laying pops.
That's what
I
Vic's future wife is going to have to deal with. So it's okay.
It's not our problem, but it might become our problem. I think it's an interesting idea. I really am hard pressed to believe it's going to be better than such a classic as Lord of the Rings.
I'm glad they're not trying to recreate the actual series of Lord of the Rings, like the same story. It's going to be in its own time frame and its own world. So I think that's
Untouched.
going to be, yeah, it's like the High Republic in Star Wars. Like it's going to be set in the age where the One Ring was created.
Hmm.
So it'd be before, long before Bilbo, long before all that stuff. This is the time when, the Great War that we see in like the prologue of the Fellowship of the Ring,
Yeah.
all that stuff's going on. So that's going to be really cool to kind of see that whole thing and how it plays out. To see Sauron and in his height of power and like why he's a dangerous villain, I think that would be really cool to see why he's so dangerous. Because I personally don't feel across 6 movies you really feel how dangerous Sauron is.
No,
So
no. I think Sauron feels distant and never much of a threat, but manipulates things much like Palpatine does. But, when we see the prequels of Star Wars, Palpatine is so involved in that, so we understand it in a better way. Whereas with Sauron, he's just kind of out there, but things matter here that he's controlling out there. But I
mhm.
want to see that rise to power almost, and how he's able to manipulate the scene.
That's totally fair. Yeah, like, kind of like what we'll talk about in the next show about with Alkalite and what we're hoping to see with the rise of Palpatine, maybe, or something like that, where you come from and like how you get the power and all that stuff. So I think that'll be really cool to kind of see where it goes. And last week they cast 20 new actors to be in the show. So they're
They're
moving
doing
along. I
stuff.
mean, this show's doing its own thing, and I am very interested to see. I mean, it'll be on Amazon, so I mean, hopefully by then we'll still have to wait a year and a half to see. They're in New Zealand, and it's one of the few things that they allowed to come to New Zealand and work during the virus. So
Yeah, and
I'm confident.
that for me, like filming on location, I don't know. Nowadays, with us talking about Mando and the way the volume is set up, filming on location almost seems already like a foreign concept to me.
Talk about a series of 6 films that pioneered filming on location in its own way. Like those movies are just a amazing, amazing way to make you want to go to New Zealand.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would love at some point in my life to be able to just go see the beauty of that land, but money.
Yeah, and Hobbiton is completely built, but I don't know how often they're going to need Hobbiton in this series, but I
I
don't
think it
know.
would be a missed opportunity to never utilize it. At
Oh
least for
yeah,
an
I think at some
ending
point. Yeah,
to like say, oh, like a callback. This is what happens at the end of the series with Hobbiton.
or even like Smaug with other dragons and stuff like it. And I think it's a lot of storylines that they could set up. So it's down the road. Hopefully, we'll be here to cover it when it comes out.
Yeah. And I'm honestly, just like Harry Potter, not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan. I enjoyed the movies. I enjoyed The Hobbit. I'm just not as knowledgeable about it as Star Wars and Marvel.
Yeah,
Even Marvel, sometimes I don't get all the references and Easter eggs, but I still enjoy it as a fan, as a pop culture geek.
but
I think you know more about Lord of
well,
the
any
Rings than
other?
I, honestly.
Yeah, I enjoy Lord of the Rings a lot. I because I have a lot of friends who are like really into it. So they also it's kind of like Star Wars. I mean, you're one of those people that drives me to push my knowledge on Star Wars. But I have other friends who push my knowledge of Lord of the Rings.
I know Vic knows a lot about
I
it.
like The Hobbit. Yeah, I really like The Hobbit. I clicked a lot. I have a lot of the Lego minifigs. I think I almost have all the ones from The Hobbit. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one of those fun things to do on the side
yeah,
when it's not Star Wars season. You know.
yeah. It's good to diversify your nerd portfolio
Yeah, exactly.
in pop culture references. It helps.
You ready to go off into another galaxy far, far away?
Well, folks, that about wraps up this show, but we have more planned that we're literally going to hop into
Yeah.
right now with discussing upcoming Star Wars projects and news from the Disney investors call yesterday, which I'm sure now will be by the time I post this probably a week ago. But
But
if you
hey,
still
we're
want to,
we're still hyped.
yeah, if you want to still hear us discuss all of that and more, please tune in for that. Subscribe to the channel for future podcast episodes with myself and this guy. You can find me on social media as well. I am Matt Mellish pretty much everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, and of course YouTube, where you're probably watching this episode. Sam, where can the folks find you at?
You can find me on Instagram at SG Sketches and stuff. There I do a lot of random art. I'm really bogged down right now with the holidays, and I'm doing a lot of private commissions for stuff. And for those of you who requested stuff on Instagram, don't worry, I'm getting there. I'm getting to your stuff. I'm just, I haven't, I haven't been posting stuff because I can't post stuff that I'm drawing for people for Christmas because they follow me on Instagram. So sorry for the lack of content lately because, yeah, I'm just really busy with all my art stuff. So yeah, but thanks for all of you who've come to my page and talked to me and requested stuff because it really means a lot. So I look forward to seeing all of you over there, and we enjoy talking to you in the live chat down here. Last week was a very engaging week on the live chat.
Always a lot of fun. And it's our pleasure to do this for you guys. So let us know in the comment section what you think of our show and if you would like to hear us talk about anything super specific in the future.
If you have any questions, leave them in the comments too. We try to get to them during the show. I checked the last 3 weeks. We haven't had any questions. If you have any questions, we will answer them here on the show. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Take care, and may the force be with you always.
See ya.